there, and welcome all you beautiful weirdos out there. We're so glad you're joining us tonight. It's a brand new year and a brand new us and a brand new episode of the Poison Tea Party podcast. I'm your host, Janet. Over here to my left is the world's sassiest woman who just wishes a motherfucker would, my sissy, Trass.
That is so me.
And to my right, the lady who likes to make shit really weird, my daughter, Kaylee.
Yeah. Exactly. See, you just did it just then.
That was weird.
I had to do it.
We're coming at you from a super secret cabin in the deep dark woods, and we're all snowed in, bundled up, and ready to do this thing. So pull up a comfy chair, grab your granny's teacup, pour your favorite poison, because this tale is going to chill you to the bone.
Ooh.
I'm scared.
You should be.
Oh,
It's
no.
it's gonna fuck you up. So, it's really fucking cold outside, eh?
Bro,
yeah.
you caught me mid-drink, so I had to swallow. However, I'm fucking frozen 99% of the
My
time.
feet are so frozen I can't feel them.
Remember when we were younger and it was like, I'll walk outside with shorts and nothing on.
Yeah.
I am so cold. The older I get, the colder I get.
Me too.
And
I
it's
used
not
to be
okay.
like a burning hot bitch. Like
Yeah.
I was just sweating
Right.
constantly, and now I'm
Me.
like, oh my god.
I'm
And,
always
like,
sweating.
Oh, it's negative 50 outside? That's fine. I'm going to go outside with my tank top
we
and
used
my
to like
shorts.
walk across town with no
Yeah,
coat on,
Nothing.
30 below.
Now
I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
I can't even go outside to smoke a cigarette because I'm fucking dying.
I'm like, I can't even sit in my living room without like blankets and dogs piled on top of me.
Yeah, I
and
gotta
feel
have my blankie.
okay about it.
And I'm always like, it's cold in here. And John's like, it's 75 fucking degrees.
That's brand. Our men hate us. Keely's like, can't relate.
No. I'm always fucking sweating.
Oh my god. I chose tonight's episode partly because of its frigid winter setting. But before we get into all that, I want to set the mood with a little game I like to call Wacky Winter Trivia.
Oh, God.
Here's the rules.
Oh.
You gals are going to be on a team.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay? I've prepared 5 winter-related questions.
Okay.
Loosely related.
Oh, Jesus.
Just,
okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
All you have to do is get 3 right.
And then I move on to the next round.
Well, then you win.
Oh, okay.
But you have to agree on the final answer. So I'll ask you, like, is that your final answer?
Okay.
Like that one stupid game show we used to watch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Want to play?
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really have a choice. Let's do
You
this.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, one more thing.
Oh, Jesus.
If you lose,
No.
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 I'm not doing
I'm
it.
not doing nothing.
I don't know
I'm
what
not
it
putting
is.
fucking
She's got something in her
tire
pocket.
shit in my mouth
She's
again.
digging shit out of her pocket. I already don't want
That's
to
what
do
it is, isn't it?
you've got to eat one of these candy canes I found on the internet.
Oh, God. Do I have to eat the whole thing?
No, you just have to try it.
Okay.
Are you ready?
What the fuck?
Ew.
Possum.
What the fuck is that?
Possum flavored cake.
Kaylee, we can't lose.
Look at the white.
Look at the back. It says, "It tastes like me."
Oh my god. I'm gonna
He's in a
barf.
coffee cup. He's in a cup
He's
full
in a
of beans.
pot. He's in a pot full of beans, and he's got a hat on, and he's smiling, and it says, "Tastes like me." A little cute possum, you guys.
Oh.
That's
my God.
super adorbs, but ew.
No.
Also, that's fucking disgusting.
It looks rotten. It's
And here's the deal.
translucent.
Just to make it okay, if you guys win, I have to eat it.
Oh,
Okay.
We have to win.
Yeah.
Deal?
Deal.
We're not going to win
Okay.
because these questions are going to be so
Yeah.
They're
fun.
not as hard as you think. But you're going to be like, oh my god, I should know this. Why don't I fucking know this kind of thing?
Oh my god.
So let's rock and roll.
Oh, God.
Question 1. We love South Park at this table, and it takes place in a snowy mountain town. So that counts, right? Yes.
I mean, sure.
In the 7th episode, titled Pink Eye, what is the substance that turns Kenny into a brain-eating zombie?
You know what it is? Because I know what it is. Do you want?
You go.
Well,
I
it's,
can't
it's
You can
remember.
talk. You can
It's
discuss.
Worcestershire sauce is what it is.
Okay.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Yep, you're right. Fuck. No! I was hoping you'd be like, fuck, I can't remember.
Nope, I got this shit. I watch this shit every day to go to
Oh,
sleep.
I do too, and I was like,
This might be a...
fuck.
Okay. Question 2. Fine, you got that right. Check.
Check.
Statistically, what is the coldest state in America? And this is a multiple choice. I've got A,
Alaska.
Minnesota,
Hold on, let's see what the choices are.
B, Maine, C, Alaska, D, North Dakota.
So just overall, which one's the coldest?
Statistically, yes.
Okay.
What is the coldest state?
It's got to be Alaska. Statistically, the
Minnesota,
coldest state.
Maine, Alaska, North
Is
Dakota.
this year round?
It just says
Statistically.
So that would be like
Like an overall
Yeah.
of all time.
it would be like an estimation, like, you add everything up, divided by what the fuck ever,
It's
and this
between
one is.
Alaska and Maine.
What were the other two?
Minnesota and North Dakota.
Okay.
This is really hard.
Because Alaska does have summer, but they
It
do get down to like
does.
negative 50
Yeah,
for
a
and
long time.
They have night a lot longer than, so it probably does get colder there, but that seems like the obvious answer. So I don't think that that's the answer, but it could be.
But Maine
It's only
is
question two.
always...
North Dakota.
We aren't losing this shit.
North Dakota.
I'm stressed.
You don't want to eat the possum candy
I
cane?
already ate fucking dirty tire or some shit. I'm not eating no possum shit.
All right.
But Maine and North Dakota, it's not Minnesota. It can't be.
It could be.
I don't know.
But-
Something's saying no.
Northern
All right.
Minnesota gets pretty cold.
It does get pretty cold.
It's kind of interesting that North Dakota isn't really in your conversation because they have like the most snowfall.
Yeah, they have a lot of snow there.
I'm just trying to confuse you guys.
But I feel okay with Alaska. Mostly
Yeah.
because they have like 30 days of night.
That's what I mean. And like they're
and that's
just...
got to bring the average down, the average cold, whatever, because it's got to be like, they have the ice road trucker shit there.
Yeah.
All right, that's what I'm
Okay. Final answer, Alaska.
That's right.
Ha!
Oh God, this might
We
not
just
end
got to
well.
have one more. We just got to
Mhm.
get one more right.
But I still want to try all the answers.
Yeah, I still want to try them all,
You
but
still want to try them all?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Question 3. How many sides does a snowflake have? All snowflakes have the same amount of sides. How many sides do they have?
well, they got a front and a back.
No.
What are we talking about?
Edges.
Edges. Okay.
Yeah.
They all have the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
I
know
did
that.
not know that either.
Is it 7?
Kaylee, I have no fucking idea. My brain says something like
8?
my brain is like, say 13, but that's not right. I don't know.
Because then, are you talking like, because then if you're thinking about that, that's just,
You're overthinking.
Yeah.
I would
'cause
say 8 or 7.
I have no fucking idea. So you just
I would say 8.
okay. Sounds good to me.
Final answer is 8.
The answer is 6.
Motherfucker.
You're pretty close, though.
That was pretty close.
Motherfucker.
That's only the first one you got wrong, so you got to get
Yeah.
the rest of these wrong. Please, God. Okay. Question 4. Giving big winter vibes, perhaps one of the best Christmas movies of all time, and everyone has seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation way too many times. Clark Griswold spends the movie trying to plan the perfect Christmas, and anything that can go wrong does. One of the funniest and perhaps most relatable parts of the movie is Clark's continuous dreaming of what he plans to do with his Christmas bonus. But when the bonus comes, it's underwhelming. What did Clark really receive as his Christmas bonus?
Bro, I haven't seen this movie in like 20 fucking years.
Fuck.
This is all on you.
He thought he was going to get a bunch of money. He didn't. He got a lottery ticket.
Final answer?
No. A lottery ticket or a gift certificate to something.
Kaylee.
Can I choose both of those answers? Because
that
I
your
feel
friends?
like he got 2 things. It was a lottery ticket or something. Maybe not. Not the. I feel
It's
like he
a
got a
pretty-
gift certificate to
it's a
some kind of restaurant or some
Pretty
something.
specific thing that he got. Yeah. Was that your final answer?
I
Do you want to eat the possum candy cane?
No.
This is not a
Think
movie.
harder.
This is not a movie that I.
I love this movie.
This has been seen in my house upwards of 1,000 times.
Yes, I love this movie,
This
but
is
I
not
can't.
our. This is not our go-to.
But somehow I knew she wouldn't be able to remember exact. I knew she would get sort of it, but not exactly what it was.
Yeah, no, I haven't not seen this movie since I was like little.
I'm going the gift certificate. Final answer.
The answer is a 1-year membership to the Jelly of the Month Club.
Oh my fucking god.
Kaylee,
Lose.
We have got to
We
get
have
this
to get-
tie.
food.
It's a tie up to this point. So if you get it right, I have to eat the fucking thing. And if you get it wrong,
Yeah, but what's the fucking question? You
You
better
have
start
to eat the
asking some
fucking thing.
questions that I know.
you might know this one. This is the 5th question, last question. In 1980, the movie The Shining terrified audiences. Jack Torrance moves his family to an isolated hotel deep in the snowy mountains to take a job as a caretaker in hopes that the isolation will curb his writer's block. Then he goes crazy. Then all hell breaks loose. Super fun.
Mm-hmm.
What is the name of the hotel?
I knew you were going to fucking ask me that because I cannot fucking remember what the name of the hotel is. I can see it and I can see the
know.
fucking shit.
And you can hear the music and
But I cannot fucking remember what the fucking hotel name is.
what's the name of the hotel? I'm like really nervous.
Oh my god, I know this.
Let me just open up some of these so we can get them ready for this fun. Like Tracy is looking off into the fucking universe like it's the worst thing. Like she's about to die. Opening the possum candy
I can
canes.
see it. You can still, can't you still go to this hotel?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually called the Stanley Hotel.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
In real life, but not in the movie.
Not in the movie.
Can we get a hint?
No.
Can I phone a friend?
You can't phone a friend.
Damn it.
We can't even get the letter it starts with.
Oh.
She smelled it
What does a possum even fucking taste like?
like fucking a bag of
how
dicks.
are we gonna know if this really is what a possum tastes like? Because we.
But
don't
that's
fucking
what same with the fucking Jelly Belly shit. Who ate that shit to know
to make
what
yeah,
it tastes
to
like?
make the flavor of.
And then how do you make the flavor? Do
How
you
do
just
you?
like I don't
and then
understand.
it has to be edible.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's disgusting.
What is it, Kaylee?
I'm gonna be pissed when you tell me because I
Mm-hmm.
definitely know what it is. I just can't fucking think of it.
Oasia. Ocean.
No,
Outside.
no.
Don't, I'm not the only one that's going to be eating this.
Oh,
It is the Overlook Hotel.
Overlook.
You have got to be fucking kidding me.
No, I'm completely serious. And just to show you what a good sport I am, I'm going to eat one too because
I don't have to bite it, do I?
No, I don't
Okay.
give a shit. I just was like, oh my god, I gotta get that. Who the
Hold
fuck?
on. I can't open it like a regular candy cane. It's not doing it.
Here, you want me to
A
open?
regular candy cane, you can just slide your finger in there and it opens.
Well, this one isn't a regular one. It's a possum flavored candy cane.
Where is it?
I'm gonna post pictures of the container of this thing.
The
'cause
canister.
It's actually so fucking funny.
It's
Okay.
hilarious.
Here, you
Did
take
yours?
this
Oh
one.
my god. Mm-mm.
Is it bad?
I'm not.
You don't have to eat it.
You don't have to eat it. Don't smell it. That's
I did. You can't not smell it.
Oh my god, you got
Mm.
these are bad.
These are really
These are
bad.
really bad.
Don't. Just chill out.
I'm doing it.
It's kind of bacony in a weird way, isn't it?
It tastes like meat.
But bacon. But my breath stinks. My breath. I can smell my own breath. That's, you guys, it's gone bad.
It's a candy cane.
I can smell my breath while I'm
It
talking.
tastes like meat.
I can smell.
This is so fucked up.
It's bacony, but in a weird way.
It isn't making any noise. The garbage is right behind you.
Why does my breath smell like that?
It does. I'm not doing it again.
You sat over there and were like sucking that thing. It's so nasty.
It was sweet at first, like they sugar.
Mine was not sweet at first.
No.
It wasn't?
No.
All I tasted was sugar, and then all of a sudden, it
I
tasted
barely
like meat.
I did mine so quick. I was like, no, done.
You're gonna have to take the damn trash out because this shit's gonna be stinking up everything.
Odie's gonna be obsessed.
He's gonna love it. Hey, if you want to surprise any of your friends out there, I got these on Amazon.
And then you can just take him out of the package and then just hand it to him and be like, hey, I got you this fucking candy cane.
Exactly. You can like put it on presents and make it look all cute because they are cute looking. They're like white and pink. You would
Okay,
never
they're not
know.
white.
No,
they're
they
like the
look like
white
death.
in it looks like
Gray.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look normal.
Well, you would never know. Candy canes come all kinds of ways.
They do.
If you
And
saw that, you'd be like, oh.
it do be looking just like a candy cane though.
Oh my god. I'll post pictures. You gotta try this.
I can't even. I just
It's
took
kind
a
of
drink.
bacony in a disgusting way.
Yeah, it's not good.
And your
Not in a
breath,
good way.
your breath will stink.
And I have no idea if that's really what a possum tastes like.
I don't know. That just
I don't
want to
know. I don't want to know. I don't.
Listen, who ate the possum?
Everything just smells.
I think they do eat possums somewhere, like maybe.
I can like when I breathe out my nose, it's like you can like.
It's bad.
It's still there.
Okay, well, that was fun.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. Hey, I did it with you guys, so. And now it's time to get on with the mysteriously frosty tale I've prepared for you all tonight. It's the Possum Candy King.
It is.
It's one of those stories that seems like a tragic accident at first, but after a closer inspection, you'll come away with more questions than answers. It takes place in some of the coldest, most unforgiving wilderness in the world, Russia's Ural Mountains, Mount Kholat-Syakhl to be exact. This is the story of the incident at Dyatlov Pass. For everyone listening who maybe wants to look this up later, it's Dyatlov. So, and it'll come right up. There's nothing else in the world about that relates to this except for this case.
Kaylee,
Sorry.
are you okay?
I'm burping up possum over here, so.
I'm sorry. I didn't know it was going to be that bad. I kind of assumed it would be like not that
How
bad.
could it not be?
How it's yeah.
The possum is swimming in a can of beans.
The package is so
Tastes like
is
me.
everything.
Girl.
I'm gonna like literally save it, cut it out, and save it.
Well, yeah, as
it's
you
so
should.
funny. Okay, just a quick note. This case takes place in Russia, and there's obviously very Russian names and places to pronounce, which I am going to completely butcher. I apologize. So this incident takes place in a complete winter wilderness. It's freezing and barely inhabitable, but there are tribes of Siberian natives who live in the area, and the ones that we're going to focus on are called the Mansi tribe. This is a tribe of people who were never conquered by the European settlers. They live on vast stretches of land, rarely making contact with other tribes or anyone else for that matter. The Mansi live near the Ural Mountains, and they have their own lore about Mount Kholat-Syakhl that originated long before Dyatlov Pass Incident. The legend says that 9 Mansi hunters went hunting on the mountain. The next day, the tribe found all 9 hunters dead with no signs of violence or clues as to what could have caused their deaths.
It was Sasquatch.
It was chicken pox.
Chicken pox.
What the fuck? Shut up.
They were just simply dead. From that day on, the Mansi believed the mountain to be haunted. Local tribes avoided the mountain completely and dubbed it Kholat-Syakhl, or Mountain of the Dead.
Fucking right.
Which is what, yeah, that's pretty. If
I
it's
just,
called that,
I
I'm
like the
nah.
lore. I like the
Yeah.
lore.
I know,
it's cool.
I'm ready for it.
So to this day, many still die on this brutal mountainside, but what makes this strange is there's often no signs of trauma to the victims' bodies. Perfectly healthy individuals perish with no signs of struggle or any indication of the causes of their deaths.
I know what it is.
What is it?
It's either some sort of CO2 poisoning or radiation.
Ooh.
Although radiation, you would be able to see it.
Because like people would be getting
Blisters.
sick.
Blisters and stuff if it was radiation. But the CO2, like if it was like getting trapped
Because of
somehow.
like the amount, maybe like clouds
The
or whatever.
atmosphere or
like
whatever.
the weather.
Yeah.
On January 23rd, 1959, after approval from the Sverdlovsk City Committee, 10 hikers led by highly experienced hiker Igor Dyatlov set off on a hiking expedition through Russia's Ural Mountains. Dyatlov was a 23-year-old radio engineering student at Ural Polytechnical Institute. He was skilled in wilderness survival, and Dyatlov assembled this group of hikers consisting of 8 men and 2 women, so 10 of them total. For reasons you'll understand later, it's important to understand the dynamics within this group of people. Almost all the hikers knew each other and attended the university together, except for one of the men who was invited based on a recommendation because of his military background. He was the oldest and the most mysterious member of the group. He didn't know any of the other hikers before the expedition, but according to the journals kept by the hikers that they actually found, he cooperated and worked well with everyone, so there was no writings or proof that he didn't get along with everyone at all. So keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
He's a psychopath. Carry
Psycho.
on. Carry on, Wayne.
2 of the hikers had a romantic past, but had split on good terms and remained friends. The youngest of the group was once accidentally shot in the leg on a previous expedition and trekked alone the whole way back to a village to get medical care. Did I say alone? This was a woman, 19, 20 years old. They went on a previous expedition. There was a hunter that went with him. He accidentally shot her in the leg, and rather than stop the whole expedition,
She was like, I got this.
she wrapped a fucking coat around her leg and trekked back in snow alone and made it to the village and got health and got care and
Damn.
survived.
That tracks. Was she Russian?
Yes.
Oh, well.
That's why.
Yeah. Everyone in this
Gee.
story is Russian.
Wow.
So she was a hardcore bitch.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring that up is, and there's a couple other instances in the group, but that was like the most extreme that are similar to that. I just wanted you to kind of get the idea of the strength of these people and the fearlessness of these people.
Yeah. They don't fuck around.
Because what's about to happen is a huge mystery, and they're not easily scared, is the point I'm trying to make right now. So these were all experienced and brave hikers who were assembled for this trek by Dyatlov. He chose them because they were mostly friends who knew each other really well, and they worked together well, and there was proof of that. There was past proof of that. They had been on expeditions together before.
Yeah.
Each member of the group was an experienced grade 2 hiker with ski tour experience, and upon returning from this expedition that they were going to go on, would be earning grade 3 certification. So grade 3 was the highest level of certification available in the Soviet Union, and to receive it, candidates were required to hike at least 300 kilometers, or for us here in the States, that's 186 miles, but it had to be in snowy,
What the fuck?
fucking terrible conditions, basically.
Get it, Russia.
That's
For real.
You can't, I'm not doing it. I'm not going a mile.
No.
No.
No, I'm good. I'm good right here.
So the goal of Dyatlov's expedition was to get to know the natives and the economy of the Ural Mountains better, to study the depths of soil freezing, and to reach the peak of Mount Otorten so hikers could achieve that grade 3 hiking certificate that we discussed earlier. February was known to be the most difficult time of the year, obviously, to take this trek on Route 5 by the group, but the group was optimistic and up for the challenge. They arrived by train at the town of Ivdel in the early morning hours of January 25th, and then they jumped into a truck that took them to the village of Vigil, and this is the last inhabited town that they're going to see on their trek.
Okay.
So there's no other towns.
I
This
still
is the
taste
last-
I still taste possum in my mouth.
I do too.
Yeah.
The beer kind of makes it more.
It's a little pungent.
On January 27th, the hikers stocked up on food and supplies and officially began their trek through the cold, snowy mountains. Real accounts from this point on in the expedition were actually recovered from logbooks, personal journals, and photographs taken by the hikers. The next day, on the 28th, hiker Yuri Yudin made the difficult choice to turn back. He was suffering from various health ailments, including severe knee and joint pain, and he had a congenital heart defect that made it impossible for him to continue on the hike. So he made the decision to turn around and go, and he left alone. Nobody went with him, and he made it back to the town.
I mean, I feel them on the knee and joint pain, man.
Me too.
Yeah.
Even more every day.
Ever since it's been really fucking cold, I can't walk. My knees fucking hurt.
Me too. I thought it was like, I was like, I need to go to the doctor. Something is wrong.
No, I've been bitching.
The group said farewell to Yudin, and then the 9 hikers continued on their journey to the peak of Otorten. But the cold, blowing snow and weather conditions made navigating the mountain range difficult, and the hikers found themselves off course. Instead of retreating downhill to take shelter in a nearby wooded area, they made a camp on the side of the mountain slope. A month later, they'd be found dead near this campsite.
A month later?
A month later. The case became known worldwide as the Dyatlov Pass Incident, and has since become a rich source of conspiracy theories ranging from government secrecy to paranormal phenomena. But why? It's no mystery how these hikers may have perished out there in the frigid cold, right? At first glance, it seemed to the authorities to be a tragic case of hypothermia. I mean, that's what I might think.
yeah.
Fucking cold
It's
there.
freezing, yeah. But upon further investigation, you will not believe what they uncovered in this case. Even to this day, it remains Russia's #1 unsolved mystery.
Oh, God.
If it's Russia's #1
Yeah.
solved mystery,
We got a problem. Mayday. Mayday.
There's a
real.
problem.
for real.
This is so fucked up. I'm so excited to be doing this episode. You guys are going to be like, what the fuck? I really want to know what your opinion is at the end of this.
I'm sure I'll have all of the opinions.
You know how I get obsessed, right?
Right.
I'm obsessed with this. I have no answers. When Yuri Yudin turned back, Dyatlov told him, hey, when you go back to the village, let them know of the conditions that we're trekking in. It's more snowy than we thought it would be. It's blowing a little more. The weather sucks.
Right.
Let them know that we might not be back on time. That is why it took them a little longer to send out a search party. When the hikers failed to return after some time, the rescue search began. Rescuers easily came upon the campsite and found the tent to be severely damaged, partially collapsed, and covered in snow. Upon closer inspection, it was determined that the tent had been cut open from the inside. Now, we're talking just a regular tent.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking triangle-looking
Just
tent.
a normal tent.
It was large because, I mean, it had to house 10 people originally. So it was a big tent, but something you might see on in a army camp.
Yeah.
You know, that's basically what it was. And these tents they're designed to sort of lift from the ground to stay off the ground a little bit. So it's what you imagine we go camping with, but it's also off the ground. And I don't really know how they achieve that, but it's maybe 3 inches off the ground that it
So it
hovers off.
withstands the weather and
So that
It's
keeps them
probably
off the
so
snow.
that they're not wet.
Yeah. So that tent is completely collapsed, and then they discover that it's been cut open from the inside. Inside the tent, the rescuers made note of the hikers' neatly arranged shoes, clothing, and equipment. There was partially cooked food in the camp, suggesting that the group had possibly been interrupted. A further search of the immediate site uncovered no hikers, but as the search party branched out from the camp, they found themselves following 9 different sets of footprints, led by individuals wearing only socks, one shoe, or completely barefoot, and they followed these down the hill. At the edge of the forest, under a large cedar tree, the investigators uncovered 2 bodies, Yuri Dornashenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. They were found near the remains of a small fire. Both were discovered in their underwear, which is extremely weird for obvious reasons. The temperature in the Ural Mountains during that trek was a freezing -25 to -30 degrees below zero.
Yeah.
It's freezing. So they're in their underwear.
But if they were fleeing the campsite for any reason,
And they were in the middle of dressing.
right, why would they stop to make
a fire.
Exactly.
And to be barefoot running for however many miles that would have been. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's when you step outside in -25-degree weather, it's 5 to 5 minutes you get frostbite right away.
It's within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when you're bundled up.
Yeah.
These people...
They're naked. They have underwear on. That leads you to believe that they were startled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And took
They
off.
were running from
and
something.
running.
Yeah. So the branches on the cedar tree were broken up to 5 meters high on this tree that they were under. And forensic testing done on the bark of the tree revealed samples of their skin embedded in it, suggesting that both men had frantically climbed up the tree at some point.
Right.
Oh my God.
The bodies were discovered in livor mortis on the right side up, facing portions of their chests. And if you don't know what livor mortis is, it's a post-mortem lividity. It's basically the settling or pooling of blood, which causes red or purple discoloration of the skin, similar to what a really bad bruise would look like.
Yeah.
The reason this is strange is because, like any liquid, blood would have settled to the bottom. But on these men, livor mortis was found on the chest, on the top when they were found.
So they were moved.
So they were moved
Yeah.
or flipped over, or the bodies were messed with after
After.
death.
After the lividity took place, though, so this wasn't right away.
So it was 20 to 30 minutes is about when livor mortis sets in, so it had to be after that.
Yeah.
So Dornashenko's ears, nose, and lips were covered in blood. He was wearing socks, but the top of the left sock was burnt. There was also a foamy gray fluid on the right side of his cheek. Yuri Krivonishenko was discovered to have burns on his entire trunk of his body and flesh in his mouth that came from his own hand, suggesting he had bitten it off himself.
Well, that's fucking weird.
Theories as to why he may have bitten his own hand range.
They ate the shrooms.
They did
They
something
ate
fucked
the
up.
shrooms.
Something fucked up. Theories range from an attempt to awaken his stiff hand to be able to hold on to the tree longer, because you know how when you get cold, it stops working as well.
Yeah.
And some people think that he may have bit his own hand to get it
But
to hold
that
on,
fucking degree?
but to bite the skin off,
Yeah.
the flesh off. I don't know.
No.
Another theory was that it was possibly to stifle a cry.
That
Which is
That's happened.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he
Again,
probably couldn't
though.
feel it anyway, though, because it was so fucking cold.
I mean, yeah, that shit.
He probably, especially
That's true.
if he was scared or something and he went to bite down, and depending on how scared he was, trying to, make himself not make a noise to be heard, that would make sense if he couldn't feel it.
And
Yeah,
if
he
your
wouldn't. I
adrenaline
didn't
is
think of
pumping
that.
too, you're like,
Yeah, you're just
nothing
freaked.
fucking, you don't really feel shit like that. Like, so the other guy who had just the blood on his face, did they find, like, did he have anything tore or ripped or anything? Do you know? Or
Was it his own blood? Do we know, or do we talk about that later?
It was his own blood.
Okay.
That was on his mouth and his nose.
But he had that grayish
Yeah,
liquid on
and
his
that-
cheek.
We don't know.
That was some saliva.
They said it was a gray foamy liquid, which I don't know what that could be out in that.
Well, for it to still be foamy,
yeah.
essentially a month later, because that's what we're thinking, that they died shortly after. Because why would they camp for more than a night?
Yeah, they wouldn't. They'd keep moving.
They'd keep moving.
Yeah.
So they had to have died right after that dude left.
It's so crazy.
It's just kind of weird.
Don't worry, it's gonna get weirder.
Oh, great.
Between the cedar tree and the tent, 3 more of the hikers' bodies were discovered. Igor Dyatlov, Zenaida Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin were uncovered
Good job.
Yeah.
in poses suggesting that they were attempting to return to the tent. So return to the camp from the cedar tree. So
Okay,
the camp's
so-
up here.
Yeah.
The tree is here. 2 bodies are found here.
Okay.
They're found here
In the middle.
in the middle, and their bodies are facing camp.
That way. Okay.
So they had escaped whatever it was, and they were trying to get back to camp to get their shit and get the fuck
yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Or maybe they were with
Trying to
those
get
people.
supplies, trying to see if whatever the danger was gone, like anything. Although Slobodin was found to have small bilateral fractures, meaning one on each side of his head, and they were similar on each side. Not identical, but similar, which could have been caused by a blunt object. They were not determined to be fatal wounds, so they wouldn't have killed him.
Right.
He was
Definitely concussed.
yes.
Yeah.
He also suffered from bilateral wounds to the outside of his thighs,
Okay.
and the tops of his thumbs and pointer fingers. So he had injuries that were mirrored on each side of his body.
Does it say whether they were consistent throughout, or were they different? Even though they were mirrored on both sides, were they similar from on his thighs to his thumbs and shit?
They
It could have been
didn't say
caused by
that.
the same object or something.
What I understood was that it was intense bruising.
Oh, okay.
So when they say wounds, they never said anything, and there's a lot of information out there, so
Right.
I could be completely,
Well, and there's so many people to cover and go over that. Yeah.
yeah, but from all the stories that I can gather, it was severe bruising.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe not broken skin, but bruising on the top
What
of
a
your hands.
weird- those are
spot.
All of the spots are weird. Those are.
Yeah, and the fact that it'd be on either side of your thighs,
On
and
your
then both
thighs.
sides of your.
I mean, the
Like-
head, okay, because if you're gonna try and fucking kill somebody, you're gonna fucking probably go for the head or the
Yeah.
heart.
Shake them, or I don't know what the fuck. I don't know. Anyway, his body was found somewhat. This is kind of interesting. His body was found somewhat frozen into an ice patch and then covered in blanketed snow, suggesting that Slobodin's body had dropped in that position when it was relatively warm, and then the water froze around him, and then it snowed over him.
Why is he the only one
He's the only one discovered in a frozen patch.
that?
But they're in the same area. That's
Why?
the thing. I don't. There's a lot of that in this. You're not going to have many answers, but it's just crazy. Dyatlov was found under the snow with his hands clenched, and his hand was poking above the snow. That's how they discovered the 3 of them. His jacket was unbuttoned, and blood was on his lips. His knuckles had brownish red bruising, similar to wounds that you would suffer in a fist fight. He was wearing 2 different socks on each foot. I don't know if that matters, but one was a wool sock and one was a cotton sock.
Okay.
The watch on his wrist had stopped at 5:31. Not knowing if that's significant at all, but you would think somebody like Dyatlov, who was extremely into this survival thing, his watch would have been working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He would have needed that. Zenaida Kolmogorova had a peculiar stripped bruise across her waist, indicating she was possibly struck with a thin branch or a baton or something thin and slender and long, and it went right across her belly button. Like she could have run into something. It was just
She was basically clotheslined by something.
Yes.
Running.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it appeared to look like.
Yeah.
But an autopsy, according to the investigators, supposedly showed no signs of deadly injuries to these 3 bodies, and hypothermia was quickly determined to be the cause of all 5 deaths.
That's
Curious,
lying.
Given the state of the men found, especially near the cedar tree.
That's lying.
What the fuck?
Okay, so we started out with 10.
We started out with 10, then
and then
one left.
One left.
Now we have 9.
Okay.
So they've found 5 so far.
5. So we have
We have 4 more to
4
find.
more to find.
Yeah.
Okay.
So finding the 4 remaining hikers would take 2 more months. Finally, on May 4th, under 13 feet of snow in a ravine 246 feet further. So a ways, but not that
It's
long.
not that
No.
far. It's really not that far. If you think a swimming pool is like not that
Okay,
I
It's
mean
just not that far.
No.
That's from the tent or from the
from
cedar
the
tree?
cedar tree.
a
cedar
football
tree.
field is 100, correct?
Yes.
So that's 2.5 football fields.
Yeah.
That's not that far.
Not when you're doing like an investigation like
Yeah,
this.
no,
I
you-
wouldn't
No.
think that would be
No.
very
I would
far.
I would hope it's not that
But
fucking far.
what do we know?
But, criminal justice.
And 246 feet further into the woods from the point of the cedar tree, the remains of Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolatov, Nikolai Brignolis, and Semyon Zolertov were located. These hikers were better dressed than the other hikers.
Okay, so they either were already dressed or had some time to get dressed.
On closer inspection, it would be revealed that they were wearing clothes that belonged to the other members of the group who were previously discovered deceased. The discovery of the 4 bodies would turn the investigation upside down and had investigators puzzled as to what actually happened that day up there in the Ural Mountains. Bodies of 3 of the 4 hikers had fatal injuries. So these, they determined,
Wow.
they were like, they died from that. Let's talk about it. The bodies of Dubinina and Zolaratov had deadly chest fractures. The medical examiner said the force required to cause these injuries would have been extremely intense, and he compared the injuries to those suffered to that of a fatal car crash. But the most mysterious detail was that they had no external wounds. So there was nothing on the outside. There was no punctures or
What the fuck?
anything around the chest.
Wound itself.
Yeah.
But it was internal.
Internal, yeah. It was as if they were crushed by an extreme level of pressure. Think about out there, what are you going to be crushed by on that level?
Sasquatch.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing out there.
The abominable snowman.
It's got to be something like that.
I'm a confusion.
I am too. Nikolai Brignolis sustained extensive skull damage and would have suffered a major, major concussion. They said that he could have shown signs of life for 2 to 3 hours after the injury, but not much longer if he didn't die instantly.
I'm saying
Yeah.
it's cold as fuck, so.
He was warmly dressed, though, from head to toe, boots and everything. It was discovered that the hikers had dug themselves a den in the snow. They laid branches of trees in the base to attempt to keep themselves up off the snow to help them stay warm and dry. But they would be discovered just feet from the den and not actually inside of it.
Okay.
So the clothes they had taken from the bodies under the cedar tree were placed on the branches of the floor in the den, and some of the clothing they were wearing was found to be radioactive.
See, I fucking told you.
Okay.
I told you.
Some of the clothing was. And
Okay.
3 articles of clothing, to be exact, were
Okay.
found to be radioactive.
But
I know.
radioactivity isn't
Isn't going to do all
cause
this.
internal fracturing.
No, it's not gonna.
It's
It's,
going
definitely
to
not gonna do all
Cause
of that.
external wounds and cause maybe like hysteria and like weird shit like that, but it's not gonna cause like
the chest wounds.
and all of
And
this
The
bruising.
burn on that dude's sock.
Yeah.
Like, what? And why are some people's jackets unbuttoned?
And why are only
Like-
some clothes radioactive?
Yeah, exactly. This is like, you see? You're getting it. It's going to get worse right now.
Great.
I can't.
Ludmila Dubinina was wearing 2 long-sleeve shirts and 2 sweaters, one of which was highly radioactive. She was wearing the highest discovered trace of radioactivity.
Activity, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That sweater she was wearing was the highest. She was discovered lying on a natural ledge with water flowing over her open mouth. Just imagine that. When the investigators took a closer look, they found that Dubinina's tongue and eyes were missing.
What the fuck?
An autopsy would show that she had about 100 grams of coagulated blood in her stomach, suggesting her heart was beating when her tongue was removed.
Yeah.
She also suffered a hemorrhage in the heart, multiple bilateral fractured ribs, and internal bleeding. Poor girl.
Well, yeah.
I know.
This is so weird because I'm sitting here and I'm like,
what could this
trying
be?
to figure. Well,
Do we talk about the tribe?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But something else that's interesting is
because
like
they're fucking around and finding some shit out.
these victims, some of their injuries are related to each other in a way.
Yeah.
Like the
but
one
these
guy
are highly skilled individuals.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about 9 of them because one had left. So we've got 9 fucking people. Like,
No,
what overpowers 9 strongly?
That's what I mean. But no, think about it like this. The one guy was found with bruising on his fingertips, and then the girl was found with no eyeballs.
Or tongue.
Or
Let's
tongue.
not forget that.
So
He didn't have a tongue either.
what if he... I'm not saying this happened, but what if he tried to gouge her?
because
He gouged her eyes out.
This fucking tribe came in and they fucking put some shit in their food
I'm not gonna
and
lie.
it poisoned them all. And then they all fucking were like tripping on
Possible.
LSD.
Yeah.
Like, literally possible. The very first time I heard the bruising on the pointer fingers and the thumbs of that one guy, I thought choking. You choked someone,
Right.
is what I thought. Like, with such force that you bruised yourself.
Well, especially in that temperature.
yeah.
like, that
your
shit can
body's gonna react
happen.
a little different
Yeah.
than it would.
I'm
Because
thinking...
you can't feel what you're actually, like, your own strength, like, in that situation. Like, when your body's that cold, you can't
No.
actually tell how hard you're doing
Yeah, or
something.
what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Yeah.
And
But I'm thinking...
I thought it was within the group.
Yeah.
That's what I really thought at first. And then I've got some...
But I don't actually think that, but I think it's interesting that some of their injuries could be a result of doing something to one another.
They
Yeah.
ate the shrooms, okay?
That's
something.
Yeah. But it was just weird that that guy had that weird ass bruising on his fingers, and then that girl doesn't have eyeballs. Because thinking about that when you're fucking fingers touching her temples, thumbs in the eyes,
Oh, God.
bruising on your fingers and your thumbs.
I mean, weirder things have happened.
I don't know.
So things are about to get even weirder with the next set of injuries
Oh
on the
my
next
God.
victim. Mostly because they're almost a mirror image of Dubinina's. So the girl with the no eyes and tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Semyon Zolotrov, the outsider from the group that we talked about earlier, was warmly dressed. So warmly dressed, in fact, that it was thought by medical examiners that it would have been enough to keep him warm enough to escape hypothermia. He was wearing 2 heavy hats, scarves, 2 long-sleeve shirts, a sweater, a coat, 4 pairs of socks, and burkas, which are boots, and he was discovered closest to the den, suggesting that he...
So he was the last one alive.
Yeah.
Like, he had to be, because there's no way that you're gonna let old girl have, like, 2 sweatshirts and then you're
And
gonna
you have
fucking...
all this shit,
Yeah, no,
like,
there's no way that that's...
unless you're, I don't know, an asshole, which has happened.
Yeah.
And this is the guy that they didn't really know, that they didn't know at all, in fact.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that suggests that. His injuries were almost exactly the same as Dubinina's, except he was not missing tongue or eyes. He still had all that. He had the exact same chest fracture in the exact same position, though it was only on one side of the chest. It wasn't bilateral in him. And his bowed exactly the same way on one side in exactly the same position, which is really fucking weird. And he also suffered the identical hemorrhage in the heart that she had. So that's
Okay.
really strange.
Yeah.
Can you hemorrhage in the heart from, like, just elevated?
Usually it's caused by a tear somewhere. So, like, if your chest was fractured and you, like, the ribs or whatever, like,
Punctured
something, even near your heart, like, it's going to all flow to your heart because your heart pumps your blood.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that makes sense.
A peculiar bit of evidence found on Zolotrov was a fifth camera found hanging around his neck. Now, this was strange because it was widely known within the group and corroborated by Yuri Yudin, that hiker that returned early, that there were only 4 cameras taken on this trip. They were documented in the supplies and seen daily by all the hikers. They were taking pictures of everything, left and right. Investigators later claimed that the film in the 5th mysterious camera had been damaged by water and the film was not able to be recovered.
How convenient. It probably was exactly what happened.
What happened?
This specific one was the undocumented one?
Yes.
Okay, so they were able, with all the documentation, to say that this definitively was the...
Yuri Yudin, the guy that returned early, he was a huge part of this case. So remember, they were all friends.
because he saw everything. He knew everything. He knew all the supplies. He knew all the people. He knew everything.
And they had gone on expeditions together. So he knew Dyatlov well. They were friends. And he knew... he kept extensive lists of what the supplies were that they had, and they all journaled,
so having him around was probably...
They showed him a bunch of the evidence, and he said, no, I've never seen that camera before. That's not one of ours. And it was in the supply list. We only have 4 cameras. So for him to say, and they found those 4 cameras, too, at camp. So all 4 cameras were accounted for. Because when they went through the supplies.
That camera has all that fucking evidence on it.
But it just can't be developed because of water damage. So, fucking bullshit.
Crazy people do that shit.
I wonder if it's...
They leave their fucking things.
Are they protecting the tribe that's there?
I don't know.
The government protecting the tribe.
So crazy. So, another strange bit... Zolotrov was clutching a pen and a small notebook when he died. One of the rescuers recalled seeing Colonel Ortyakov retrieve the notepad from the dead hiker's grasp. He looked at it and cursed out loud, and then he said, "He's written nothing." To this day, the rescuer is the only person to ever report having seen the notepad, and it was never entered into evidence.
Why?
Well, that's fucking shady.
Isn't that kind of weird?
That's a little sus.
What's on that?
Yeah.
What is he writing?
That's extremely sus.
So Alexander Klevtov was another well-dressed individual. He was well-dressed, but his jacket was unbuttoned and unzipped again. And this would be unusual for the frigid temperatures. Some articles of clothing he was wearing were also found to be radioactive. The autopsy said nothing on the nature of his injuries that he sustained, but we do know this. His nose was broken. And his left ear seemed to be ripped forward from his head.
Yeah, Kaylee. It only takes 8 pounds. It only takes 8 pounds.
His neck had also appeared to have been snapped.
Listen.
So whoever did that, I mean, they knew how to do it.
These are cannibals. Or if they were cannibals, they would have eaten them. So
these are like special agents, bro.
And there was more than one.
Well, definitely. Yeah. There was 9 fucking
9
hikers.
People, unless it was a Yeti. He didn't need nobody else.
Yeti and my spaghetti.
I feel like if it was Yeti, it would be a lot more...
brutal.
Yeah.
So let's go over the scenes. Okay? We're going to go clear back to the campsite, that very first scene. The scene of the camp was analyzed to determine what really happened. Early on in the investigation, it was thought possible that the group may have been attacked during the night, and this would be the reason for the sudden abandonment of camp and the disarray that it was left in. But when it was uncovered that the tent had been cut open from the inside rather than using the doors, and the hikers fled through the cut of the sides, they ran through the footprints led from there, investigators were left with more questions. 9 backpacks were left behind, along with a slew of personal belongings, including boots, warm fur coats, a stove, axes, a saw, blankets, food, and 4 cameras. This is a ton of shit.
Mm-hmm.
An ice pick and Dyatlov's jacket, as well as a working flashlight, were also found just outside the entrance of the tent. These were free of snow, and that's going to be important for one of the explanations later.
Oh, okay.
Because the rescue crew expected to find the hikers alive, they didn't fully preserve the footprints at the scene of the camp.
What a bunch of it. They
know what's going on.
But photographs taken of the scene before the rescuers actually approached camp did make it possible to confidently determine that there were at least 8 to 9 sets of footprints in the snow around the tent. There were also additional sets of footprints discovered in photographs taken by rescuers, but it could not be determined if they were made by the hikers, the rescuers, or someone else.
Nuns of guns.
Nuns of guns. God damn it. From the conditions that the camp was left in, it could be determined that likely only a threat of exceptional danger would have forced a group of 9 young and physically fit people to leave their shelter and run to safety of the completely freezing and uninhabited forest. To them, this had to mean whatever caused them to flee, not leaving the tent would mean certain death, right?
Yeah, I mean, but like also, I don't know, just leaving the tent in general and cutting the side of the tent, like,
why don't you just go
what's
out the
that
door?
achieve? Like, what does that achieve? Because if somebody's sitting at the front, what makes it not, they can just go out the back, well, so can this, whatever's guarding the front.
It's not like it's a fortress or something.
Yeah.
What's so weird about that thing is also the fact that whatever is coming at them, you're in a tent. Your tent doesn't have fucking windows. You can't see what it is.
Right.
How do you know which way to go? 1. 2, there's no sign of, like, struggle inside of the tent.
Nope, everything is laid.
Everything was
pictures
fine.
of it you can look up. Everything's folded.
looks
Everything's
nice.
neat around the edges of the tent.
They got to be hallucinating.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, did they eat some bad tuna? What the fuck is going down?
Shrooms.
Shrooms. It's probably shrooms.
It's probably.
They also left behind weapons such as axes and knives.
Right.
And this is what is crazy because what danger could they have faced out there in the frigid Siberian snow that would make them forget their weapons?
Well, yeah, and if you got something knocking at your front door being like, I'm coming in there,
So
why would you
why
abandon
wouldn't
your
you
weapons?
grab
If you think
them?
it's the tribe coming to kill you,
Right.
why don't you have these in your hand?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
This had to be a sudden thing. This happened right now. And I don't know that they were suspecting of it or not.
I think they were hallucinating.
I kind of do too, because
Yeah.
I'm like,
There's no other explanation for why they
Was-
fled. I mean, the injuries are whatever, but that could have also been caused because they were hallucinating too, being like, he's after me, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah.
But then why are they
or-
all dead?
Unless maybe one guy starts freaking out in the tent, right? And they all have to get out quick. So Dyatlov cuts the fucking side of the tent and they all run off because this guy's going crazy.
Right.
Like, it could have been that.
But you would think about a situation like that. There's shit that's gonna be knocked over and shit. Like,
Yeah, you're right.
for it to be so,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
Because-
weird.
I don't see them cutting the side of the tent in that instance either. You just run out the door.
or, there's 8 of them. If one person's freaking out, there's 8
They
more to
take care of it.
overpower him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like-
yeah.
To me, if you're gonna cut the side of the tent and run out so frantically, I would imagine that somebody's at the other side of the tent fucking
That's what I
pushing
would
it
think.
and there's shit knocking down. Like, it would be a
And it
mess
would be a mess
inside
in there,
of the
but
tent.
It's not. So the next scene investigated was the scene of the cedar tree. If you remember, there had been
Yeah.
a fire made at the base of that tree
Mhm.
when they found the first parish hikers. Let's talk a little more about that fire, huh?
Mhm.
Around the fire, investigators found a pile of small branches.
Same branches that fell.
The branches were clean cut, indicating a knife was used to cut branches for the fire, but there was no knife found at that scene,
Nuns of guns.
suggesting that there were more people gathered around that fire at some point is what we're getting at. It's estimated that by the burns on the branches that were found in the fire pit, that fire had stayed lit for about an estimated hour and a half.
I'm wondering if they were all being watched for a period of time and that was where those people were watching them
Well, then
from.
they were startled again, and then
And, like, that was the fire that they had made those people before.
this was a game, clearly, to somebody
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And then, like, and they came from a different way to chase them to their area. I don't fucking know.
It's nuts. So the branches that were burned in the fire pit, to your question, Kaylee, came from a fir tree, not
Oh.
a cedar tree.
Okay.
The low branches of the cedar tree within arm's reach, when you're reaching up the tree, they were broken off. They were thick, young branches, not dry, but healthy. And these kind of branches are the kind that are just really hard to break. For example, like when you hang on a tree or a branch with the full weight of your body and it doesn't break, that's the kind of branches these were.
Yeah, like you
Not
need a
easily-
knife to...
Not easily cut through, though.
Especially
just
if
a
it's
knife.
Well, especially if it's alive and not dead tree.
Right. And this was a healthy tree.
So they claim that those were cut with a knife, but they were too thick to be cut with a knife.
They didn't say that. They didn't say how they were cut off.
Okay.
This is the thing about this investigation is that
There's
some
a lot
things-
of information, but none. At the same
Exactly.
time.
Some things seem to be extremely thorough, and other things are like, so I have questions, and there's no answers, but there should be, you know?
Because they know what happened. I know they know.
It's possible.
They're covering it up.
So those branches that were missing from the cedar tree were
Mhm.
actually lying underneath the tree. They were just laying there, and they were piled up as if they had fallen from the tree.
Okay.
It's disputed that this was possibly made as a viewing hide so that they could watch the campsite without being seen, which is possible.
Mm-hmm.
The snow around the fire pit had been trampled, indicating that at one time all the hikers were together in that area, gathering wood and building the fire. It's believed, based on forensic matter found on the bark of the cedar tree, that the danger may have followed the hikers and surprised them at the scene of the fire pit, sending 2 hikers up the cedar tree and the others deeper into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 men in the tree may have held on as long as they could, eventually dropping from the tree to their deaths. Burns found on the bodies indicate they may have fell near the fire pits and could have still been alive and struggled.
Well, that sucks.
So now we're going to talk about the den, just so you guys have a visual of what it looked like. When I say den, you think a cave. But that's not really what this was. It was like basically a hole dug into the side of a very deep snowbank. It was taller than them, but it had no roof.
Mm-hmm.
And large branches, as we talked about, covered the ground to keep the hikers elevated off the snow. And this would have provided good protection from cold winds. It was probably the idea of Semyon Zolotryev. He was in the army, and he would have learned to construct similar dens to this while he was serving on the front. Clothing was found on the floor of the den, which was strange because you would assume the clothing would probably have been worn. A rescuer named Vladimir Askenadazi stated that he felt like those who were in charge of the investigation were not really interested and may have already had a theory. He said he thought the whole operation felt rushed, the atmosphere was tense, and everybody was waiting for answers from someone in Moscow who was pushing for a very speedy investigation. Once the bodies were gathered from around the den, it was time to transport them for autopsy. But the helicopter pilots refused to take the bodies on board their helicopter, citing that it was against their official duties. It's believed that they suspected the bodies to have been poison or radioactive.
Well, yeah, I was going to
And
say.
this is without knowing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't know much out there if they haven't tested yet. The crew further demanded that the bodies be enclosed in zinc coffins before they took them on board. And at this point, that fucking asshole, Colonel Ortyakov, took out his pistol and he threatened to shoot the crew on sight.
Oh,
Vladimir
my God.
Askenadazi intervened and the bodies were rewrapped and transported.
So that's super hilarious because they already fucking know what happened, as I've
Well,
stated.
these crews probably know this area pretty well, I would assume. So they would know that, something in the area is like, a taboo or, that we don't fuck with that shit.
I'm sure there's weapon testing possibly going on out there in the Ural
Yeah.
Mountains. It's uninhabited
Right.
as
But-
far as the Russians are concerned.
Right.
That would be a great place for them because Russia, they're fucking crazy.
Well, and it's
They would-
huge. It's huge.
That would be a perfect opportunity for them to test new war tactics or something like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Mom was
somebody
saying-
wanted this investigation
Yeah.
shut down. They wanted to give everybody just enough answers, but not.
but not
What
The
if
right
they
all
were
of them.
testing chemical weapons to make, like you said, make them hallucinate and then see what would happen, or
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, the U.S. government has done way crazier things than that. Can we
Yeah.
talk about LSD?
yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
for real.
come on.
Yeah, and it happens.
Governments do this shit.
So, 3 pieces of clothing worn by the hikers in the den were found to be highly radioactive. In the lab, after rinsing the clothes in cold water for 3 hours, the contamination was decreased by 30 to 60%. This proved that the contamination could not have been possible under normal circumstances. So,
Yeah, so
This
it was
wasn't
something
just
they were exposed to something
Yes.
radioactive.
Yes.
Yes.
the scientists concluded that either the clothing was contaminated by radioactive dust or they became contaminated by radioactive substance.
I think that one of them was wearing all of it and was the person that was essentially contaminated. And then when they died, other people took their clothing, and that's why one was more radioactive than the other, because it was possibly the top layer.
You're right in that. So then they do determine that those clothes all belonged to one of the guys that died originally at the fire.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. One, I don't believe any of this bullshit. I bet you all those clothes were radioactive, but we ain't gonna really know the truth because all those people have their little fingertips up in that shit. Two, I'm gonna say this as well. I bet you that little guy who randomly comes aboard and they don't really know him that well that decides to hike along with them, he was probably involved with the government, probably was going to be a volunteer for them.
Which is why I think that he was the last man alive.
That's why he was the last one alive.
Clothes. But he pissed him off, or they didn't want any witnesses, so they just fucking killed him.
They probably...
You girls are not alone in that theory.
No, they probably were like, we're going to have you do this. You're going to be completely fine. We just need you to be involved. No, bitch, this is Russia. You're going to die too. They don't want anybody alive to tell the real story.
Anyone to talk about it.
No.
So, a quick science lesson just on that radioactivity. A typical but high level of radioactivity that it could be reasonably picked up in an unsuspecting environment could be as high as 5,000 beta particles per minute. Dubinina's sweater was found to have 9,900 beta particles per minute, and this was after the bodies were found in that ravine with that cold water rushing over them. That was
so
after
for
that.
real.
So that's almost double of what the normal range or whatever.
And that was after
the
the water cleansing. So
I wonder how many
before
fish...
that, I wonder what it was at.
Yeah, and I wonder how many fish were just fucking floating.
No shit, how much shit was like radioactive now and still is to this day, because that shit doesn't just go away.
It doesn't go away.
So yeah, the levels of radioactivity weren't something that they just picked up along their trip.
That was planted.
Or was it? I don't fucking know. So what's going on here?
Let me tell you what's going on here. No, we're just kidding. Go.
These were the findings at the scene of the crime. 9 dead hikers in 3 different locations. All have suffered their own different traumas. Crazy things are happening. But what really happened at Dyatlov Pass? I'm going to go over some explanations that people have.
Okay.
And then you can tell me what you think. Mm-hmm. If you think any of these.
Oh, I have a lot to tell y'all about what I think and over here.
I'm puzzled. So the first one has to do with KGB agents. A conspiracy theory that's out there is one that you can find in a book by Alexei Ratkin, creatively called Dyatlov Pass.
Wow.
Wow, he really went all out for that one.
He really put some thought into this.
He did that shit.
Love him.
In it, he claims that Semyon, that's the odd guy from the group, Alexander Klevtov, and Yuri Krivonishenko were, in fact, KGB agents. Their mission was to uncover a hidden cell of CIA agents. They were supposed to deliver radioactive samples to the Americans and then take their pictures in return. But something in their deal went horribly wrong, and all of them were killed by the CIA agents. That's the theory. According to the theory, the clothes were actually the samples of radioactivity that would be delivered, and the rest of the group, except for the 3 suspected KGB agents, of course, knew nothing about the mission. The background of some of the hikers may support this claim. Semyon joined the group at the last minute, as we have talked about, and no one knew him before. He was a veteran who had fought in Stalin's special forces and had several years, of combat experience. Alexander and Yuri were both known to be working for top-secret atomic institutes.
Okay.
The conspiracy goes that when the KGB-CIA meeting goes down, as we say, it goes horribly wrong, the entire group is savagely hunted and then massacred. One hole in the story, though, the radioactive samples that were said to be the clothing were left at the scene of the crime. They were left at the den.
And I was just going to say the camera. Like, even though the film was destroyed, it wasn't. That was just their fucking cover. But why even risk it by leaving the camera at all?
Yeah.
The clothing might be a little bit more whatever, because especially at this point, it's spread out, right? Like, there's whatever. But that camera was so easy to just grab.
Just right there.
And nobody would have known that you took it.
Yeah. And I think if the CIA would have gone through with actually killing the entire group of 9 people,
they would have covered it all up.
They would have taken the shit.
I think they would have taken a lot or all of it and just wiped the whole fucking scene clean.
Yeah, no shit.
Like, why would they? Yeah.
Because they wouldn't even want this in history papers. They wouldn't want us
They
to
wouldn't
be
want
talking
any of it
about
on record at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think...
The CIA. Now, the KGB, I have no idea what they would fucking do, but the CIA would definitely... They're definitely a wipe shit clean kind of fucking situation.
I mean, they've got some things that they haven't processed well in the past, but nothing to this degree.
Right.
This is messy.
It's super fucking messy.
For the CIA, for a special agency, this case is messy.
Yeah.
I don't see that being the reason.
No.
The next theory is gulag fugitives. This comes from a private investigator who came up with the idea that Dyatlov's group could have been mistaken for a group of escaped prisoners from local gulag prison camps and could have been killed in a cleanup mission by the military. Many small concentration camps for political prisoners were located all over Siberia. The closest one to the area where the Dyatlov incident occurred was just actually a few miles away. It wasn't really that far away.
Okay.
There was also a piece of clothing among the belongings that did not belong to any of the hikers, identified to be foreign to the group by Yuri Yudin, who... That's the hiker that left early. The piece of cloth was determined to be an omaki, used to keep legs warm. It was mostly used by soldiers in World War I and later by soldiers in Stalin's concentration camps and was made of a unique material, making it easy to identify.
Government, military,
to this
military
day,
tactics.
but that guy was in Stalin's special forces.
Yeah.
Also,
So
though,
could he have had it?
I just
He
want
could
to
have had it.
say,
He had a camera that nobody fucking documented.
and also, if it was the military, bitch, they ain't gonna be chasing you around. They're gonna shoot
But
you.
also, I still think that particular group was around longer, and then maybe because it wasn't documented and that dude had never seen it, maybe old boy met up with somebody in the woods somewhere and got more like supplies or whatever, and he was then at that point then he was issued a camera and maybe like a fucking blanket or whatever the fuck that thing was.
But I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to think that he brought that with him. I mean, he's got
True.
a big backpack.
Yeah.
They all have big backpacks. You might not know what's in every pocket.
True.
I don't believe this conspiracy. If the military really thought that these were foreign escapers, that's not how they would handle
the theory
this.
itself is dog shit.
No.
No.
They would, first of all, military people are not going to just start chasing people around and fracturing
and
their
how would
fucking
these-
bones and shit.
Right,
That's
and
not
how would
that
these
works.
prisoners have all these fucking supplies and
Exactly.
shit?
They
Yeah.
very clearly look like hikers from the way that their whole camp is set up.
Right. How
they-
did they just acquire all of these
Right.
supplies and all of
Yeah.
this stuff?
Yeah, that doesn't make
One.
sense.
Yeah.
Two, if a military was like any somewhat professional, I mean, they probably wouldn't just start running up in there being like, "We're coming to kill all of you."
Well,
But if they were going to be
Listen,
so for real,
we're in Russia.
no, I mean, that's what I mean, but be so for real, they would shoot them. They wouldn't be
You're right.
Yeah.
chasing
They
them and
definitely
doing
would.
all of this weird
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And there was no one was shot.
No.
So to this day, no one knows who the Omaki belonged to. However, it was determined that there were no escaped Gulag fugitives from that particular nearby camp at the time of the Dyatlov incident. So there's this one I can't get behind, but I'm going to say it anyway. In 2018, Vladimir Nagaev, head of the Medical Military Hospital in Russia, publicly theorized he believed the reason for the hikers' demise was a result of a scientific experiment gone wrong. He claims the group was on a mission to launch special purpose radio zones in the area. These radio zones were filled with a gas that was filled with short-lived radioactive isotopes. If this sounds above your heads, don't worry. Us too. Basically, he said he thinks a meteorological rocket crashed into one of these radio zones and spilled the radioactive isotopes over the group. And though this theory makes me feel intellectually inadequate, it also doesn't explain a lot of the facts that we know occurred up on that mountain. So I think it's not likely the correct.
Is he a
explanation.
Scientologist?
I mean, he might be on the right track, but I think that maybe one of whoever was wearing the original clothing, they may have set it off on an accident, and that maybe that's why their clothes were covered in radioactive shenanigans, and not the entire group. Although we're not entirely sure that they didn't all have some sort of radioactive.
Right, because radioactivity dissipates over time.
Yeah, right.
But there would still be a trace.
There would be.
It doesn't just disappear. That's the fear of radioactivity.
It's
is that
transferred. It's not ever
it
gone.
doesn't just go away.
No.
So, but to be fair, side effects of radioactive isotopes do include things like pulmonary edema, expansion of the borders of the hearts, fullness of organs, and dark-colored blood, all things that were found to be present in some of the hikers' bodies. But for me, it doesn't explain things like fractures of skulls and chests.
Missing eyes.
By why one hiker would bite his own hand.
Yeah.
Or why the tent was cut open. It still leaves quite a few unanswered questions and is lacking a complete explanation for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
I'm feeling like, no. I don't feel that whatever happened, the whole group was aware of what was going to happen.
There was definitely some sort of radioactivity, like some sort of like symptoms of radioactive shenanigans going on. However, it does not explain
the
rest.
And also, I don't think like the whole group was on a project to,
in order to like die
whatever the fuck he's talking about
quickly from radioactive shit, there are other things that will be present. Blisters.
You would be having some definitely
Yes.
skin rashing.
Yes.
And I should know, and I don't think I really covered I wasn't very good at covering this. They did find that the hiker's skin was reddish brown.
Okay. That could be done due to frostbite.
Yes.
yeah.
So
There's like,
that's not really an explanation. There are clear, like, radioactivity, like, there are clear, like, visual
I described
indications.
it as melting.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be looking.
Think of Chernobyl.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-
and that's in the same area.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I don't know. But I don't think it's that. Because why are they cutting from the
Yeah, that doesn't make any...
They
were
from the tent?
There was either a something, or they were hallucinating, or, you know...
Which maybe high levels of radioactivity could make you hallucinate. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know that.
I'm
I've
sure
never...
it fucks with you, but I've never experienced that. So.
I've never experienced it, but also I've never really heard of it. Because, you know, you think of a lot... I love Chernobyl. I love the radioactive girls from... what's that called?
The Radium Girls?
Yes,
Okay.
the Radium
Radium
girls.
Girls.
There's all that kind of shit. You know, there are just way more clear signs if you were going to die that quickly. Because again, we got to remember that the dude left the fucking camp. He knew where the people were when he left, or about where they were. So they had to have died like within like a day
Quickly, yes.
of him leaving.
Yeah.
So in order for them to die of radioactivity that fucking quickly, there would be more clear indications that is what happened. And that's just not there. This is trauma, blunt force fucking trauma for some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
But
so weird.
there was definitely some sort of poison or gas
poison
being used.
As you can see, we're very confusion. So the next one is Special Agents, and this is kind of goes back to the KGB thing, but another author, Keith McCloskey, took another stab at trying to identify the cause of the hikers' deaths in a more cleverly titled book than the last guy, Mountain of the Dead.
Wowzers.
I know. He theorizes... He theorizes that the group may have stumbled upon a military testing site when they fell off course and were killed by Soviet soldiers who were protecting the area. There's a whole elaborate story. Seriously, it's crazy. But it goes into a power struggle between the ranks of the KGB and the Russian military. McCloskey thinks that Semyon, the odd guy in the group, was sent by KGB boss with the group to get pictures of illegal activity carried out by a high-ranking military official. The conspiracy goes that Semyon, while he was taking pictures of a military helicopter, was spotted. A team of soldiers was then deployed to recover that camera. The group resisted, not understanding why they were even being detained in the first place, and then they were killed. The hole in the story, the camera.
Is the camera still there? And nobody was shot. Soviet soldiers, come on.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not
They're
gonna
gonna
like,
fucking put a
oh.
bullet right between their fucking eyes. They're
Yeah.
not even gonna fucking waste
Exactly.
their time hunting these people in this manner.
Exactly.
Like, if these people were hunted by someone or something, this is a different kind. This is a legit, like, primal hunting. This isn't like if the military was hunting them, they'd just be like, bang bang, you dead.
Exactly.
This isn't even. This is like somebody was enjoying this.
Yeah.
But this could explain the degree of cover-up that was taken
That's
by
what
the Soviets.
This is what I'm saying. Like, this conspiracy, I like more than the other one with the KGB. because I feel like it's a little
It could
bit
also
more
explain
realistic.
some of the radioactivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more realistic in that sense.
Yeah.
But also, it still doesn't make sense if the Soviet Union just saw that, they would shoot them.
Yes.
That's just how that is.
Yep. So the next explanation that people have come up within the first 2 weeks of the investigation, evil Mansi hunters were on the short list of culprits to who may have killed these hikers. Remember, the Mansi was the tribe we talked about earlier. A Mansi camp was found at a distance of just 200 feet from a previous spot where the group had camped a few nights prior,
Okay.
indicating that maybe they
They
were being
were on
followed.
their trail.
Yeah.
The Mansi also knew the area extremely well and had all the required skills and know-how to cover up tracks and hunt the hikers.
Yeah.
There's also a mysterious photograph. Now, this is not one thing I've talked about yet. There's also a mysterious photograph taken by the group of what some call a Yeti, but what really looks like a human figure in the tree line. It's one of the last known photographs taken by the group. This theory states that Mansi hunters were stalking and hunting the hikers, and the group surprised the Mansi by fearlessly snapping that last photo of them. And this may have been the reason Dyatlov decided to make camp out in the open rather than going down into the tree line where it would be safer and warmer, so that they could easily see anyone approaching camp.
Right.
It's no surprise that this was blamed initially on the Mansi people. There were and still are to this day mysterious and superstitious people, and little is known about them. They made easy scapegoats for this case with so much mystery surrounding it. It's a classic case of we fear what we don't understand.
Yeah, but that still doesn't make sense, because if there was a tribe of them, why would you cut the back of the tent knowing that there was a fucking tribe of them? Because they're probably outside the back of the fucking tent too.
Right.
It still doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. And the theory just doesn't hold water. The belongings of the hikers were left.
And they would have taken that,
They
because
would.
that
They
is
would have
supplies.
known.
There's food. They have weapons. They have whatever.
Yeah.
If they were gonna go kill these fucking people, why wouldn't they take all the
They would.
supplies?
That's the thing, is everything was completely untouched for a month.
Right.
Mind you, in the snowy cold mountains, given further proof that it was not a crime that was carried out by Mansi hunters. They would have not let the goods, warm clothes, weapons, food, and money. There was money. There was $2,000.
They would not have let that go. Because they're very resourceful. It's a tribe living out in fucking nowhere.
They had families to feed,
right.
too. I mean, children.
They
So-
definitely would have taken advantage of that.
After the discovery of the hikers, the Mansi hunters were rounded up and interrogated, but to this day, no one knows the true fate of those hunters and those people that were questioned.
Yeah, they probably were
They
killed.
probably killed them.
Well, especially because, obviously they were probably trailing these people just to see what they were doing, because that would be a smart thing for the tribe to do.
Absolutely,
Okay, we
curious.
see these people.
Yeah.
We need to keep an eye on them, make sure that they're not going to invade us or do something fucking strange.
Exactly. That's what I would have thought.
So these people that were rounded up, once they figured out who it was, they killed them too, because they knew
Maybe.
exactly what fucking
Yeah.
happened.
They saw what happened.
So, another popular theory, perhaps the most popular theory. Are you guys ready?
Oh no, let's hear it.
The theory is a good old-fashioned avalanche.
Right.
What?
Yeah. There was significant snow piled up toward the north side of the tent, or the back of the tent, suggesting to some that a sudden avalanche could have occurred, scaring the hikers into fleeing.
No.
But you want to hear how much snow
It
there
wasn't
was?
significant enough. They were able to fucking get away from the tent, and everything was still undisturbed.
It was 15 to 20 centimeters of snow piled up against the back
Yeah,
of the tent.
no. And these are people who are well educated with nature and
And
resources.
they would have known
and
to
stuff.
stay in the
Yeah.
fucking tent.
No.
It just isn't enough to
No.
claim that it was a full-blown avalanche, let alone that it scared them.
Right.
But it's more likely that strong winds caused that snow to pile up against the tent. The hikers' snow skis, this is the other thing, were stuck vertically into the snow around the tent. So when you stab your ski into the ground.
Yeah, to hold them
and
up.
it stands up. All 9 pairs of skis were still standing up. You would think if there was an avalanche, it would have knocked all that shit down.
Correct.
So they were still standing. Further evidence showing that it was not an avalanche consists of items found just outside the tent. An ice pick, a jacket, and a flashlight were all laying on the top of the snow, but weren't covered.
Not to mention the fire.
But that doesn't make sense either, because some of the bodies were covered with snow.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. Avalanche avalanches are uncommon in this area, and in the diaries of the hikers, they did comment on the snow amount, saying that it was not very much. Was it snowy? Yes. Was it scary avalanche snowy? The hikers' words suggest no. However, there is another weather-related phenomenon referred to as a snow slab. A snow slab is literally a slab of snow that some think could have rolled over the tent, causing the abrupt evacuation of the people inside, disorienting them and injuring the group, ultimately leading to their deaths. However, this idea has a few holes as well. It's not likely and, in fact, impossible in some cases based on the highly organized sets of footprints that were leading to the cedar tree to conclude that the most injured members of the group could have walked away from the tent if they were so gravely injured at the start. If the healthy members assisted the injured away to the tree to make the new camp, the footprints would have indicated struggle, which they did not.
Well, and where's the snow slab coming from? Because aren't they out in the fucking open?
Yeah.
So that doesn't really
But they are on the side of the mountain. So the snow slab would have come from higher altitude. But I don't know. The pictures, you guys got to see the pictures.
It still just
Look
doesn't.
Pictures up
that
after
doesn't
this.
make sense.
Also, the tent being also highly organized. If a snow, whatever
Slab
the slab
moves
hits
over
your
it.
fucking tent, shit's gonna fall.
There's going to be snow inside the tent.
Well,
and
there
if you
is.
look up the tent, there
And
isn't
there's
much snow in there.
There's a specific sound that these things make. I don't know if people know this, but like when an avalanche happens, and I assume it's the same with a snow slab.
Oh yeah.
It makes a very distinct noise.
I mean,
because it's not just going to
loud.
be quiet.
Giving you a little bit of warning.
Yes, to
And
get to
these
where you need
people
to go.
are
Highly
yeah
trained.
they know
They're
it's
aware
hikers.
of their environment.
Yeah, so they would kind of be onto this already before it hit them, I would think.
Yeah, I still say they were hallucinating.
The hikers were also highly aware of the dangers of leaving camp without the warmth of their gear and the safety of their axes and their food. We have to assume if a snow slab or avalanche did occur, some members would have at least attempted to retrieve some of the supplies probably before they made the trek.
At least a
to another
fucking
camp.
backpack or some fucking skis or
Right.
some fucking weapons or something.
Anything.
Not just barely the clothes they had on their fucking backs.
Right. I don't know. The next theory, get your tinfoil hats on, folks.
I love tinfoil hat
Yeah.
time.
This next theory, because some people think that the hikers' deaths can be blamed on, that's right, UFOs.
UFO.
Oh,
I'm
my
here
God.
for it.
And we do know, based on the recent confirmation from the Pentagon about UFOs, that there are things in the skies that we don't completely understand. We do know that that is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And around this time, Soviet armed forces launched some rockets from a nearby base. We do know that that did occur during the time that the Dyatlov crew was out on their trek.
Hiking,
We
yep.
do know that happened. And though the rockets were confirmed to have landed in the Ural Mountains, some geologists did report glowing in the area of Dyatlov Pass during their trek. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I haven't heard about shit.
Investigators did make note that some of the tops of the trees appeared to be burnt.
Old boy's sock was burnt.
It was. References to unidentified flying objects were included in the report of this case. This includes spherical objects hand-drawn by Mansi hunters and other testimonies of witnesses of objects in the skies from the time. Investigators stated that they found some young trees at the edge of the forest that did have burn marks on them. They confirmed that heated beams of a strong but completely unknown energy directed its power toward a specific object, or in this case, possibly people. I don't know what to make of that. That is what is in the report.
So, yeah, no,
No.
I mean,
No.
no.
No, absolutely not.
No. They're unidentified
They're
to
deflecting.
like the general public, yes. But they were definitely identified by somebody. Somebody knew what the fuck was going on. And no, no.
Dismiss.
Yeah.
The next one I have for you is something called infrasound. Infrasound is yet another theory as to what could have caused the hikers to run screaming into the night. This dome-like shape of the mountain and the blowing wind could have created a small, intense tornado that produced terrifying phenomenon called infrasound. Although infrasound cannot be heard by the human ear, it can cause sleeplessness, shortness of breath, and feelings of extreme dread. If this sounds familiar, that's because it can feel similar to an incredibly intense anxiety attack. I'm not sure if this could be responsible for all the injuries sustained by the hikers, though.
No, but it could explain a little bit of hysteria.
Yeah, it could explain why they were scared.
Yeah.
I don't understand
Maybe
why it
not
wouldn't
all
keep
at the
them from
same-
their supplies.
But all of them at the same time, like that's a little sus.
I don't know.
That's extremely sus. You know, something might set over me before it sets over you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if something like that were to be the case, like it might affect
But
me.
also, fear is something that's fed.
Right.
So if you're scared, I'll say I'm not scared, but I'm starting to get scared. And I might act like I'm not, but I am. So anxiety, I believe that that's equally as contagious. So if you're here feeling nervous, and I'm like, why the fuck is she nervous? I'm fucking nervous now. Why? I don't know why. But to this degree, no.
Yeah. Well, and for them to all go, okay, because I don't know about you, but my anxiety makes me sit right there on the floor in a little fucking puddle, and I ain't fucking going nowhere. I'm not running from anything.
Right.
And everybody experiences anxiety differently, so I don't know.
For them, I don't think a natural event is going to set them off.
I don't think so either. But here's a good one. You ready for this next one? This one might be the most funniest one on the list so far. Well, no, it is. It's the funniest one.
Let's hear it.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Some suggest the possibility of something referred to as ball lightning. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a rare weather phenomenon. It's actually a ball of energy that moves throughout the sky, and the energy is expelled in the form of lightning from it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rare. Obviously, we've never seen it. This theory was developed based on a makeshift tripod that was found at the original campsite, suggesting the hikers were keeping an eye on something in the sky. So they had made a tripod outside their tent out of sticks. What was it for? Who knows? But it could have been to start a fire under.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been to hang
To
clothes on. I don't know. It could have been...
study the stars.
Yeah, it could have been a lot of things. I do find it kind of hard to believe, though, that a ball of lightning intelligently followed them from their tent to the cedar tree and finally to the den like a murderous floating ball of weather.
Yeah, no.
That didn't happen.
No, because even if it occurred at the original campsite, why is that bitch's eyes missing?
Yeah, and her tongue.
Last but certainly not least is an explanation that we here at the Poison Tea Party can probably all get behind. He's a big white monster who lives in the snow, who stalks and captures and kills, probably. That's right, I'm talking about my favorite cryptid and yours.
Yes.
The Yeti.
The Yeti.
Absolutely. Known by many names.
Many names.
Many names. Abominable Snowman, Bigfoot.
All
you
the
fucking
things.
say it. That's
name
what
it.
That's who he is.
And
Yep.
you know what? I'm here for it.
This theory has absolutely no credible evidence of even existing, let alone any evidence of being the culprit, right
Yeah.
down to the fact that there are no Yeti-sized footprints that were found at any of the scenes. The Discovery Channel did produce a pretty fun documentary, though, claiming that one of the last photographs taken by the group is actually a real-life photo of a body-crushing Yeti who had been following the group, and not a man, like most of us who see the photo would believe. I'm going to look that up later so I can show you guys the picture. You guys will be like, that's a fucking person.
Right.
Anyway. A satirical leaflet was found outside the tent at the original campsite of the hikers. Inside it read, "In recent years, there has been a heated debate about the existence of Yeti. According to the recent reports, Yeti lives in the northern Ural Mountains near Mount or Torton." That's what the leaflet said. Kind of crazy. This led to many theories surrounding the Dyatlov incident. Some think that the hikers may have actually been on a Yeti hunting expedition and found one. The folklore surrounding this and the area of the Ural Mountains makes for a great campfire story, but it's not likely.
No.
Aside from that, there are stories and folklore told by Mansi people of a huge man-eating monster who inhabits the forest.
Correct.
The very forest that the 4 hikers constructed the den in, where they were later found dead. I found one source that claimed that people from Vigil, the last village that the hikers were at before the trip, warned the group about the forest. They had heard and known the lore of the Mansi people, and it was said that anyone who enters the forest without first asking permission from the spirit monster would die a horrible death. That's what the Mansi people believe. Days later, the group would die horrible deaths. Mm-hmm. Coincidence? Maybe. However you look at it, this case of Dyatlov Pass leaves you asking more questions and never, ever gaining any fucking answers.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Okay, I know this case is extensive, but with all the evidence and the possible causes I presented to you tonight, what do you think happened out there on that cold, dark night in the Ural Mountains?
I really think that old boy had some sort of military ties still, and that he had something to do with it, and then he was later murdered because of it. I don't... That's just whatever. I have no other theory more than that, but it just doesn't make sense, because what had them so scared, okay, to run away from the campsite, to cut the tent and run out.
With no weapons.
Nothing. No supplies. Nothing.
Not even shoes.
No. And then they all, like I said, I had thought that they had all made a new, gone to this other campsite, which you later said that the footprints around it suggested that they were all at that little fire at some point. But what had them so scared that they would not go back to the campsite to retrieve their things? Well, then those other people look like they were killed on their way back to the campsite. Okay, so what about the third group of people that were found? It just doesn't make sense. What had them so scared of the campsite with all of their supplies and all of their things that they just left it, A, and then B, they just never returned to it? It doesn't make sense. And I still think that those people with the girl with the eyeballs and the tongue missing, and then old boy that had all the fucking clothes that I think was definitely a part of this, I definitely think that they were alive longer than the rest.
Yeah, I do too. I think that was the last group alive.
Yeah. And, maybe they were returning. Maybe that's why they made their little den to stake it out to make sure that shit was safe, because you said it was like 200 and...
down in the den.
Yeah, it just doesn't...
What gave them bilateral fractures?
It doesn't make sense, because military definitely would have murdered them differently, I feel.
Yeah.
The camera was still there if that was literally, whatever. I just feel like there is some sort of government testing going on in the form of some sort of gas or poison that is causing these people to hallucinate. And then, yeah, maybe they did kind of like freak out and kill each other. Something happened where they like were hallucinating.
Turned against each other.
Yeah. And then the last group was the last like sane group. But I think that what got that group of people was very different than what killed the original group of people.
Yeah, because how could... They said that in order to cause those fractures, it would have been the pressure of a car crash.
Yeah.
A person couldn't administer that much pressure.
And their injuries were very different from the other...
Yeah.
What was it? 4 or 5 hikers? Because, like, the one had the band across their belly, like... But really, other than that, that was, like, the only... And the guy biting his fucking hand.
Yeah, what was the reason for that?
But... there was no other clear indication of their death. Like, the autopsy could confirm. Granted, it's 1959 or whatever you had said. So there was probably no toxicology done. And if there was, it wasn't probably that great.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
But it just doesn't, none of it makes sense to me, other than that first group of 5 people definitely died first. And then the group of 4 that was remaining, they definitely died last.
That's what I believe as well.
Other than that, it was some sort of hallucinogen.
Tracy thinks they was tripping balls.
Well, I think that and it probably was military.
And they did have vodka with them, but
of course they did. They're Russian.
They did not drink any of it. They had not drank any of it yet.
That's not very Russian of them.
Well.
All right, Kaylee. I had to get mine out of the way so that she could go off for a minute.
What do you think?
So, I agree with Aunt Tracy, and I think I have a little bit of a timeline of how these things may have unfolded.
Okay.
So, what's the guy's actual name? We're calling him Old Boy, I guess.
Semyon.
Semyon?
Semyon.
Semyon.
Yeah.
So he was definitely a part of the military or the government or some sort of something.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was definitely promised something in return for doing and going through with this experiment of whatever.
Yeah, like maybe he released the gases that made everybody hallucinate or something.
I kind of don't think maybe Old Boy was necessarily aware of the extent of what would be happening. And I feel like maybe this is how this is all just alleged, okay, Russia? So don't be coming at me. So they're in the tent.
They're just as puzzled as we are. They want answers too.
So in the tent, I have a feeling that either Old Boy knew or didn't know that they were putting some sort of hallucinogen or poison.
Maybe they unzipped the front and threw something in, and that's why they cut the tent and all ran out the back.
This is what I think.
Idea.
So I think that
Who's they though?
Like the government or somebody opened the tent and threw a fucking thing in, like a fucking
and then they were
smoke
like,
bomb.
"Oh, we can't go out. We
we gotta go out this way." That would set a good panic. I'm just
possibly.
saying.
I'm thinking that Old Boy was
Old Boy
either
is Semyon.
Yeah, Old Boy is Semyon. I'm thinking Semyon either knew or didn't know that part of this program of testing new tactics was giving them drugs to see what would happen. So I think that they were drugging the food. I think that they were in the tent that night. They were drugging the food. And possibly, the reason I think maybe he wasn't aware of that was because, this is all just alleged, but I think maybe he confessed why he was really there to them in the tent that night.
Okay.
And they were all tripping.
Could have been.
And then they all started panicking.
Yeah.
When they heard what he was saying to them.
Maybe they drugged the vodka and that's why nobody drank it.
And nobody drank it or whatever. So maybe they just all got done eating and that guy was talking and blah, 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 blah. And then he shares something that's, maybe he didn't even outwardly say it. He just said something that was kind of weird. But if you're already tripping out and you don't really know why you feel the way you do, that's going to make you freak out.
Yeah.
So then, as we discussed earlier,
I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. We don't know, but yeah. But as we discussed earlier, you're feeding off of energy in the tent. So now, somebody who, maybe it was the guy, the really smart guy or whatever we were talking about, he may have been the one that cut the tent open to run out first. And then others followed suit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when they did that, what they weren't aware of, and what Semyon wasn't aware of, was that the government was already watching them that whole time that they were there. They've been paying attention to them this whole time. Because this is an open area. They could have been...
They did state that when the searchers went looking for them, they found them easily. I don't know what that meant. But they already knew where they were.
Where they were.
Or they followed tracks. They didn't
How
specify
convenient,
that.
right?
Yeah.
So...
They went off course, remember?
Yes,
they didn't follow the
exactly.
course they were originally supposed to go.
No, I strongly believe that the U.S., or not the U.S., but the Russia government was watching them because they had plans intact to do this. Now, the following, I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, I'm thinking that maybe when they were running, people may have came out and they were trying to test fear tactics, which is a real thing that government armies do, and especially back then, and it was not what they do today. The shit that they did for fear tactics was weird, and it was fear tactics. So it could have been some weird shit that they were testing to see. They could have been trying to turn people against each other. Maybe Semyon's job while he was there was to see if he could turn the group against each other, or whatever the case may be. But either way, I think that they ran out, and they were met with the government people at some point, and I think they had fun with it. They made a game out of it.
That's awful.
I think that's what happened. Possibly. And then I think towards the end, because they were trying to, because we think the first 5 people died first, which I agree with. I think that they did those people first, and they were putting more fear into that second group of people. And I think that they probably let them live longer to see how they would survive, what they would do, what those drugs were doing to them, radiation was doing to them, to see if it was affecting them in any way, shape, or form. They probably were taking data on all of this shit just to test it. And then I think once they weren't getting the results maybe they didn't necessarily wanted or didn't care anymore, they went in again to do it all over again. And I think that possibly the reason at the end of the story when we hear the guy who picks up the man's journal and doesn't like what's written in it, maybe he confessed in there that he was having second thoughts about doing whatever it was he was supposed to do.
Yeah, because we never see it again.
No.
And we never hear of it.
We never hear of it.
It's not logged, you said, into evidence.
Why would that not be logged unless they have to hide it for their own protection?
And that's the same government guy that was like, I'll shoot you if you don't all get on this fucking helicopter right now.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, he was taking no fucking bullshit.
Exactly.
So he is crazy.
I just feel, yeah.
Do we know, did they ever mention any, like, needle marks or anything on any of the
No.
bodies?
Mm-mm. There's nothing like that.
It would have to
But-
be something ingested.
So this is a crazy case that'll probably never be solved, but recently in 2019, so just a little while ago, Russian officials announced that they were reopening the case of Dyatlov Pass. In July of 2020, the official findings were released, suggesting that snow slabs surprised the
Lies.
sleeping victims and pushed them to seek shelter in the nearby ridge. Unable to see more than 50 feet in front of themselves, the hikers froze to death as they attempted to make their way back to their tent. Not surprising, though, the findings are not widely accepted.
The Russian government did
No.
that fucking shit to cover their own ass.
Yeah, they were doing some sort of experiment. with
They
these
covered
people.
those. They made those people think. They made that second group think that they had left that scene. I bet you that's what fucking happened because they went back and they got those clothes. They fucking warmed up. They probably put
I don't think they ever
snow-
went back. I think they took the clothes off of the dead people originally and then went on their fucking way. Honestly,
I
that's
mean,
what
yeah.
I think happened.
Literally, there's so much.
They
There's
never.
so-
I don't think they ever returned to the campsite, which has
don't
me
Not to
thinking.
the not to the campsite. I was thinking that they may have went back to the cedar tree.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they what I think is like they kept running, right? And they possibly the army or whoever the fuck was like, let's pretend like we're gone. Let's see what they're going to do for the next week or whatever. Like they had like a time span spread out for this shit.
Yeah, I think that they had traveled far away from the campsite. I think that
Yeah, I
when
don't
they
think-
started to venture back to the campsite is when they were fucking killed because they weren't found for 2 months and they were only 2.5 football fields away
Yeah.
from the original. So when they originally came back to do the scene and whatever, I think that those people were still out in the fucking wilderness somewhere. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
when they come back to the campsite, that's when they were murdered.
And they knew where they were that whole time. That was all a part of the fucking plan.
I think so.
So there are so many theories suggested about this case, all of them pretty intriguing. As you can hear tonight,
I'm going to be
We're
talking about this to
split.
the rest of my fucking
we don't
life.
know. We don't know. This is so crazy. I hate it when I can't solve a puzzle. I highly recommend that you do some digging of your own and uncover the mysteries of Dyatlov Pass. And that concludes this frosty tale of gruesome gore tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Poison Tea Party podcast. Check us out and like us on Facebook, where you'll likely catch all the latest episode drops, updates, and news. But if you want to be the very first to know about important Poison Tea Party gossip, you're going to want to head on over to the Patreon page at patreon.com/The Poison Tea Party and become a member. You'll gain access to big news first, super sweet perks, and of course you'll be able to listen to our new extension show called Extra Poison, and you will be a supporter of perhaps the very best podcast of all time. That's us.
That's
That's
fucking
us.
right.
That should make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and we'd be eternally grateful.
Yep.
We're eternally grateful.
If you want to get a hold of us, float on over to the website at thepoisonteaparty.com. All the info is there. And until next time, you super sweet, sassy little listeners, why don't you save the hiking for spring? Just stay home and wait for the next opportunity to pull up a chair to the Poison Tea Party. We promise it's mostly safe.
Mostly.
As long as you don't
Mostly.
eat the possum candy cane.
Don't eat
Don't
the possum
eat
candy
it.
cane. That
Don't
was
do
fun,
it.
though. Come on. Stay classy, super sweet baby darlings, and keep those pinkies up. You've been poisoned.